with that down, let's move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Chris Brickner, who writes, well, it looks like DC's winning streak ended not with a critical dud, but a box office one. Birds of Prey opened below industry predictions of a 50 to 55 million opening and below Warner's own $45 million opening predictions, with openings of 33.25 million domestically and 81 million opening globally against predictions of 110 to 125 million from Deadline. While not a flop, with a budget of $84 million, it is a disappointing opening. Why do you think it opened so low? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Chris. And yeah, let's go over and take a look at the box office numbers from this weekend. Birds of Prey did open at number one at the box office, but not as strongly at number one as a lot of people had predicted or hoped. It opened with 33.25 million. That will be adjusted come later on today. Bad Boys for Life is still hanging in there, doing well with legs at 12, another additional 12 million. 1917, with all the Oscar buzz going on, pulled in an additional 9. Doolittle made an additional 6.6, and Jumanji: The Next Level, which just keeps chugging along, not going to make as much as the original one, but it's still chugging along, made another $5.5 million. So it brings up the question, what happened with Birds of Prey? I think before we get into the disappointment, I think there's something we should keep in mind here. This movie, worldwide, pretty much made back its production budget. That doesn't mean it's breaking even. Not yet. It's still got a long ways to go to break even. But usually, if a movie on its opening weekend worldwide can pull off the accomplishment of making back its production budget, that's not the worst thing in the world. Like, regardless of what expectations on, I never like the idea of measuring the success of a movie by what people's random arbitrary expectations were. I don't think that's a realistic thing to measure it by. Like, you can go into a basketball game and say, well, LeBron James scored 45 points, but go, oh, yeah, but we expected him to score 80 points. 80 points is nowhere near 45. So therefore, terrible performance by LeBron. No, 45 points in a game is outstanding. So I'm never big on judging a movie's performance based on what its expectations were. I rather just look at its numbers. This is a movie, Rob, that needs to make probably around the $250 million mark to break even. I don't know that this movie's going to break even. I don't know that it's going to break even. But there are some people online painting this particular film, Rob, as an unmitigated disaster. Like, at 33, this is a total fall on its face, hard kind of flop. The reality is it's not. It's a little disappointing, but it's not the biggest flop in the world.
No.
I did not like this film. It was better than I thought it would be a number of months ago. Like, a number of months ago, I thought this thing was just going to be terrible. And it's not terrible. It's not awful. I just didn't particularly like it, which is unfortunate. So there's that. But Rob, when you look at its overall number, it's not great. So what happened? What went wrong? That's what people are asking now. What went wrong with this thing? Why did it so underperform? And I want to propose a couple of things. Thing number one is something I said from the very beginning that they made this movie. I did not think this was a wise movie to make. I mean, I said that from day one. I did not think this was a wise movie to make. And look, when you look at how it's structured, you're talking about the side character of a side character, right? It's one thing, because you got Batman, and it's one thing to dig down one more level. Joker is a side character, ultimate villain, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Harley is a side character of that side character. And now I got it. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad was really great. At least I really like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. So I got that, but I never really understood. I never felt like out there was a hunger for this movie. I didn't understand the rationale behind making it. And I said that all from day one. The other thing was, Rob, and you wouldn't know this till you see it. This movie, the trailers, I never thought were all that good. But more importantly, the trailers never once told you what the plot of this movie was. Right. It never once just told you what the movie was about. And when you go to see the movie and you realize, when you go see the movie, and for those of you who have seen it, you know what the movie's about. It's like, the trailers didn't at all remotely tell the movie or tell the audience, what is this movie about? I'm not talking about giving away spoilers. I'm not talking about ruining but just, by the way, we want you to come and pay $15, come see our movie. This is what you're getting, a movie about this. And they never once told people what the movie was about. Even now, as somebody who's seen the movie, as I go back, and I did this the other night, and looked at the trailers again, I was like, these trailers didn't tell anybody what this movie was about. So you start off with something about it's a side character of a side character. It was one that never really should have been made in the first place, and the trailers didn't do it any favors. I don't know that we should be all that surprised about 30 to 35 million, whatever the final number ends up being. I don't know if we should be all that surprised. But again, I don't think it's all that terrible either. When you take all those things into consideration, the fact that it was still able to pull in 30 plus million, I don't think it's all that terrible of a result either. And it'll be interesting to see if it has any legs or not. I'm just not sure. And Rob, I shudder to think, how low would the opening weekend have been if it wasn't for all the positive reviews and all the positive? Can you imagine how low it would have opened if it wasn't for all the big critic reviews and all that kind of stuff? We're probably looking at something that probably would have pulled in like 23 or 24 million instead of the 30s plus. Anyway, Rob, you see this. What's your analysis of this whole situation?
Well, I think you're right. In the thing that has always attracted me most to movies is the story that's being told. Do I find it, whether it's somehow, does it connect with me emotionally? The potential of the story that I'm going to see in a movie, whether it hits me emotionally, whether it hits me intellectually, however it hits me, is what gets me. It's the single thing that gets me to want to go see a movie. And like you pointed out, in this, it wasn't until, I don't know, the later TV spots that you even had an inkling of what this movie was, other than Harley Quinn's shtick. You know, the title, The Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, that subtitle, well, that's interesting. And okay, she's being emancipated from the Joker. But I just didn't feel that there was enough here, and I think a lot of people felt this way, that there was, my must-see on this movie was not at the height. It wasn't where it should be. You know, my must-see should be between 85 and 100%, and it wasn't with this film, because I didn't, what was the story they're going to tell? How is it going to be any different? Like you said, she's a side character to a side character, and why should I care about her? And I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh, well, you know, the all-female cast or the female director or whatever. I don't think that's the case at all. I think what's happened is that it was just a film that people weren't as excited about as everybody thought they should be. And we see this a lot in movies now. Like Blade Runner 2049, as much as I loved it, Blade Runner was never a hit. It's a cult movie at best. So when you are going to go spend almost $200 million on a Blade Runner sequel, who thought that was something, that this is something that Hollywood believes? And I think Harley Quinn was something that, okay, everyone loved her. She's a fan favorite. But she's a fan favorite within the community that talks about these things. But as far as the general audience was concerned, was she?
Good point.
Was she a fan favorite?
Yeah, and you know what? Here's an interesting thing too here. I think it was a mistake to add Birds of Prey to this. I honestly think there might have been more success if they just focused everything on Harley Quinn. Because look, I'm not going to give anything away here. But Huntress, by the way, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, can do no wrong in my opinion. I will watch anything with this lady, and I love her. But Huntress, for example, you get a couple of quick looks at her in the first part of the movie, but you don't really, in any substantive way, even really get her into the movie until you're well into the third act of the film. She's not even, like, Birds of Prey has really next to nothing to do with this film, ultimately, until you get, like, to the very end. But anyway, I don't want to give big spoiler stuff away, but I think the same thing would have happened, Rob, if they had done, like, let's take another side of a side, Victor Zsasz, right? Victor Zsasz, who, by the way, I really like the Victor Zsasz character in this movie. But, you know, if you had done a standalone Victor Zsasz movie, I don't know that the general movie-going audience would have cared. And here's the other thing, Rob, to keep in mind. A lot of us forget this, but the Harley Quinn character is a relatively, in terms of the history of comic books, a brand new newborn character. This is not a character that my grandfather and my father and I all read about. Like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, these are all characters that are built into the fabric of pop culture and have been there for decades and decades and decades and decades. In the grand scheme of things, the Harley Quinn character is still a relatively, basically a newborn.
And
right?
came out of the animated series, I mean, it's something that is not, it's very new. The character of Harley Quinn is very new. And also, I think, look, the animated series now, people are really liking it, but I just don't.
But I don't just like the animated series. I'm obsessed with the animated series. I love the Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, a Birds of Prey movie, why not just make it a Harley Quinn movie and make it more of a character study than it was? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I just think, and by the way, while I did not like the film overall, I liked a lot of the individual pieces more than I thought. I liked the Victor Zsasz character. I really enjoyed Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. I know some other people had issues with that, but I really liked his Black Mask. I really liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, as I knew that it would. There's some decent action. Some of the action doesn't work, but some really decent action. Some pretty funny dialogue here and there. A lot of really good individual pieces, Rob, that just didn't fit together for me to make a satisfying movie, but anyway, there's probably a lot of reasons why this thing didn't do as well as some people thought. Question here is, guys, how do you feel about this? I mean, can you still consider it a win, considering that a lot of times these DC movies haven't been well received critically? This one has been very well received critically, even if not by me, but maybe it is still a win in some ways. Why do you think the Harley Quinn film, the fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, why do you feel it didn't live up to what some people's expectations were? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.